Love that music, don't you? Hello and welcome to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. They wouldn't know it because the bars don't work on Google Hangouts. Sad. And with me, as always, is the founder of the feast, the man with the plan, the guy who makes everything happen because everyone knows I just talk funny and look pretty.
Fill me and Perich.
That's the man. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Captain Mustache. How are you?
I love the mustache. I've always loved the mustache. The problem with the mustache. See, here's the thing about the mustache is so expressive. It's like having a third eyebrow. It is just an amazing thing to have. You can communicate so much with a mustache. The mustache is the most communicative part of the male body. But sadly, it requires a lot of maintenance. And I am, at my core, not a very good dad. And I can barely be a good dad to my kids. Being a good dad to my mustache is real hard. So yes, it will grow. I will keep it for a while, and then eventually soup starts getting in it, and it's like, And then I have to say, you know what, mustache? We had a good run. It's time for you to go back on the shelf.
Mustache.
But the mustache is always in my heart, you know. So one thing about me is I like to change my look.
Oh yeah,
keeps the federales from closing in.
Next thing you know, your head will
always important.
Next thing you know, your head will be shaved again. Yeah.
Soon as they make me permanent, man.
But hey, Charlie. Speaking of famous mustached men, what the heck is going on with Stan Lee?
Basically tabloid journalism, fake news, as fearless leader would say. Basically, from what it turns out so there was this big story about Stan Lee is being elder abused. And then Stan Lee basically came out and said, fudge you all. I'm Stan the Man Lee. I'm still very active. Yes, I'm old. And it's not always easy for me to get out of the house and to do all the stuff you guys want me to do. But that doesn't mean people are beating me. Yes, somebody stole my blood. It happens. Not for nothing. No one wants your blood, Phil. No one wants my blood, Phil. So it's like we don't live in a world where people are like, hey, could I get some of Stan Lee's phlegm? And it's like there's a market for Stan Lee's phlegm. Honestly, if you put a hanky that Stan Lee had blue snot in right now on eBay, you got a quick $200 there, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you got a certificate of authenticity.
People want to be near the DNA. If they just be near the DNA of famous people for some reason, it's
Well, yeah, and especially if you ever wanted to clone another Stan Lee.
Okay, show.
I would recommend cloning a Jack Kirby or a Steve Ditko to go with it. It is a match set, and Stan Lee will be the first to admit that it is a match set. That he was made greater for the people he worked with. Stan Lee's never been a credit hog.
So that's the official word. That whole thing with the blood is fake news. Because I had heard that.
No. I think the blood is real. But okay. Whether or not it was stolen, whether or not it was first of all, who the heck wants something autographed in Stan Lee's blood? That is some weird Kiss, unless it's like an issue of Kiss.
I was gonna say, didn't Kiss do that back in the day?
Yeah, Kiss did that, and so in that case, yes, I could see which does say Stan Lee Presents. So if you're getting a Kiss original printing, then stamped, signed with Stan Lee's blood, I could see that. Okay, that makes actually perfect sense to me.
I don't know if from what I hear, people were signing issues of Black Panther with Stan Lee's blood. I'm just like, what?
Well, I guess. I mean, Dr. Voodoo, that makes sense.
Yeah,
if it's a Dr. Voodoo book, that makes absolute sense. Was Dr. Voodoo in that in that issue? Then it's perfect sense.
I don't know, but I mean, did Stan come up with Brother Voodoo? He came up with Black Panther, so.
Dr. Voodoo came. Well, I mean, here's what it is. At a certain point in Marvel's history, everything said Stan Lee Presents.
Yeah.
Stan Lee is the Walt Disney of Marvel Comics. He didn't create everything, but he had his thumb on every scale. which doesn't necessarily mean that Stan Lee created it or was the mastermind behind it, but Stan Lee was the guy saying, you, not you, So honestly, I feel Stan Lee gets all the credit he deserves and all the negativity he deserves. I think he's in a very zen, balanced place. And I certainly hope that Kevin Smith doesn't have to take him in. But it's good to know that there are Kevin Smiths in the world that will take in a Stan Lee in his declining years, if it should ever come to that. But from Stan Lee's response, I'm inclined to say that it is fake news. It is someone trying to, and not for nothing, the Stan Lee bullet train has been tabloid fodder for years. Depending on how this whole Trump thing goes, Stan Lee may run next year. Sure. And I'd vote for him. I wouldn't have learned my lesson. I'll vote for him.
I don't think he wants to go to that much trouble anymore. I mean, the man's in his 90s. I think he just wants to.
Yeah, it's more work than it's worth. Honestly, who wants to be 98 and be president? It's a pain in the butt. So,
but you were talking about Kevin Smith. I was listening to the latest episode of his Fat Man on Batman today, and they were talking to these two young guys who work at was it Disney World, I guess. I mean, we're always talking about how Disney's protective of their secrets, like Infinity War. They said like the critics aren't seeing Infinity War until the last possible moment. I mean, something big is we've been talking about this for weeks. Something big is going down in that movie.
Yeah. Honestly, we broke it. We know what it is.
Yeah, Dinklage is Mephisto.
Dinklage is Mephisto. There is no other answer that makes any remote sense.
And if it's not Disney, you're just wrong.
Well, yeah, not for nothing. Yes, but Mephisto. Okay. They can pull off Dinklage Beyonder. They can go the easy route. They can go the easy route with Dinklage Beyonder. Dinklage as Mephisto is so perfect, Phil.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, honestly, if we were a national show, so let me put it this way. If we were a national show and you had said that, Disney would be sitting there saying, we got to do reshoots. Come on. We got to make Dinklage the Mephisto because that's a better idea than what we had.
They'd be offering me some money.
I said it was a better idea than what I had.
But Kevin Smith was talking to these two young guys who work at Disney World, and they said, I guess they work at the park at night doing maintenance and stuff. And like Kevin Smith's like, do you ever see anyone trying to break into the park? And I think they said no, but they're like, what happens? A lot of times they get drones going over Disney. It's usually from like media sources looking for like scoops and stuff. Do you know Disney has net guns to like try to catch drones looking for like behind the scenes stuff? They have net guns to shoot.
Okay. Do you know anything about Disney? Do you know anything about Disneyland?
We all joke that they're like this, this massive conspiracy, this massive machine that will stomp you for spoilers, but they have net guns to shoot down drones.
Well, of course they have net guns. You know what? Would Tony Stark not have net guns?
He's a fictional character.
Really?
Yeah.
No, but Tony Stark, he's based off of these guys from this period in time.
Oh.
The Howard Hugheses, the Walt Disneys. Yeah, I mean, Walt Disney. Heck, you saw that episode of Batman the Animated Series. With the Imaginauts as opposed to the Imagineers. The adult Wisney.
I want to see Walt Disney's.
Yeah, well, no, but for what it's worth, that's not as my Uncle Joe was saying. It's important to remember that in the early days of film, this was the Silicon Valley of the early 20th century. These were all a bunch of gearheads and science guys that were getting together to figure out how to create film and stock and animation. These were this was high tech for the day. These were, Walt Disney was the Mark Zuckerberg of his day. Okay. And, so of course that ethos has permeated his company throughout the years to be this futurist kingdom of in which Wakanda does not look outside of the norm. Here's what I'm going to say: if Disney had come up with Wakanda and not Stan Lee, we wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah,
Wakanda forever, man.
Wakanda forever.
I'm working on getting my Wakandan citizenship, man. They're taking refugees now, man.
Hey, man, Trump's trying to start up diplomatic relations with them.
We could use it. We should be so, as I say, every time everyone says a joke about Donald Trump, we should be so lucky. That should be the extent of it. Donald Trump trying to communicate with a fictional nation, that should be wonderful. That if that happened, that would be good. Just because, you know what, Wakanda is not going to declare war on us, and we really can't declare war on Wakanda. So we're kind of in a détente, and we could use a good détente right now. But not to get political, but yes, the idea of net guns to take down drones, that does not surprise me at all. You know, Disney is a multinational conglomerate that, you know, is about to, if all goes well, take over some of the largest property, not only in intellectual property, but on real estate with Hulu, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They basically get Hulu out of that deal, which is just crazy. But good thing I already got it, you know? Just hope they don't start jacking up the prices. You know, if you jack up the price, then you better give me the Disney streaming with the Hulu streaming. Okay, Disney, is that cool? Can we work that out? It's like you jack up Hulu price, but then you get Disney stream. Like Disney streaming is like $5. Hulu's gonna be $10 or $15, but you're gonna get the Disney streaming with it. And I'm like, that's cool by me. That's cool by me. Make it 20. It's fine too. You know, I'm not going to complain because I do watch stuff on Hulu. You know, I got reminded that I can watch Saturday Night Live now. I can watch Gotham now because all the other apps are they're a pain. Hulu's easier. I want things easier.
The first person who could stream everything through one source is going to be making some loot. You know.
Well, I mean that's what AT&T is trying to do.
Yeah.
With their merger with DirecTV now. Which would be great if AT&T had sold me a decent hub for my Wi-Fi and not a hub that can't get to the back bedrooms.
Oh, I need a button. First world problems.
Yeah, you know what? First world problems. But you know what? Doesn't make it not a problem.
Hey, it's like, hey, you pay your money. You want.
Yeah, I want it to go. I mean, it's not like I live in a mansion. So I live in a 2-bedroom city apartment.
Yeah, it's an apartment. Yeah, it should reach the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the people in the back bedroom should be able to get it, even with their door closed.
Is it thick walls?
I think it is. This is like all pre-war construction kind of stuff.
That's probably your problem.
Meant to survive blasts and nuclear war and stuff like that. You know, nuclear war, great, we can survive it. But what about Wi-Fi right now? Do I even want to live in a world without Wi-Fi? Think about that. To quote Krusty the Clown, I think the living would envy the dead.
Lord.
Who remembers that episode when Sideshow Bob got a nuclear weapon?
Okay, this isn't even on our list for tonight, but what about this whole Apu controversy?
Oh, okay. So here's the thing with Apu, because I've thought a lot about this, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I actually wanted to talk about this for a while.
Okay, do it.
So here's the problem with Apu, and the problem from Hank Azaria's perspective. And here's the problem: is everyone wants to go to Hank Azaria and ask him, Hank Azaria, will you quit your job because it's racist? And Hank Azaria is like, dude, I'm an actor
who's been doing this for 20-some years.
Yeah, I got a regular paycheck because I go and say, thank you, come again. And we've evolved my character so he's not just a joke character. I'm not just doing an easily replaceable character. I'm freaking Apu. And we've made Apu a neat guy. And so, no, if you say, should they fire me and hire someone else? No, I don't think you should do that because I would like to keep on having a job. So don't ask Hank Azaria. You can ask Matt Groening. You can ask a producer.
Yeah.
But even there, they're going to say, we're loyal to Hank Azaria. He's a good guy. We don't want to fire him. And they don't want to get rid of Apu because Apu's a cool character.
What's the issue with Hank Azaria though? I mean, he's an actor. I mean, he's doing a voice. They throw a script in front of him. You know, if you got to
basically what it is. Here's the crux of the entire Apu issue.
What are they against his accent?
Exactly. Well, that's what it is. Apu is a caricature. He is no different than Amos and Andy. Now Amos and
isn't everyone in Springfield a caricature?
But it doesn't matter. It felt okay. Let me go back for you a bit, okay?
Okay.
Amos and Andy. You've heard of Amos and Andy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Amos and Andy. There's nothing on Amos and Andy that wouldn't have been on the honeymoon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Amos and Andy is there is only Amos and Andy. So for example, if Apu, as an example, if Apu's wife was a more prominent figure, then Apu wouldn't be this wouldn't be an Amos and Andy caricature. Now, Amos and Andy weren't particularly offensive in and of themselves within the concept of comedy, but they were voiced by two white guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they fell into this minstrel tradition. Now, in other versions of Amos and Andy, they were actually played by African American actors. There were African American actors who played Amos and Andy. And they were not minstrels, they were just two black actors who were doing minstrel characters, because there were a lot of black actors who said, dude, you want to have minstrel shows? We'll do a minstrel show. We're actors. Will you give us money to do a job and act? Because not for nothing, most comedy, whether it's in blackface or whiteface or ginger face, as it was back in Roman comedies when the slaves were all gingers. Folks forget that, but back then when the Celts were the slaves in ancient Rome, there were lots of. So ancient Roman comedy is the inspiration for much of what we think of as minstrel shows. Now there are different kinds of minstrel shows. There are minstrel shows that feature what is often called now the sassy maid character. Used to be called the sassy slave character.
Okay.
If you've ever seen A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which I believe is based off of the work of, I want to say not Aristophanes. Was it Aristophanes? I'm forgetting my ancient Roman comedic writers, but basically, there's a lot of ancient Roman comedy that features this slave who talks back to his master, whose master is very impotent because he's a young master, and he says, "We should do this," and the slave is like, "Yeah, okay, I got you there." And the slave is basically playing his master the whole time because in its own subversive qualities, because of course Roman comedy was very subversive of the imperial state at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It came from this perspective that the slave was no less a man than the master. But because, one person had swords behind him and one person did not, one had to be a slave. But in being a slave, if you had a master who was naive, you could run them in circles. This is a comedic stereotype that continues on throughout a lot of other programs throughout history. A lot of your early dumb blonde wife jokes often are at the husband's expense because it is about how the wife uses her feminine wiles to manipulate her husband, and the husband is, in fact, powerless against them. He is the titular head of the household, but his power is reliant on his spouse. These are stories that continue on for thousands of years. Honestly, separate from race, gender, or other politics, because they are all about the powerless and the powerful and the dynamics between them. Getting back to Apu, basically what it is they wanted to have a joke character who was in typical sassy, and really in many ways in typical sassy slave style. The thing about the sassy slave or the sassy maid is yes, they are in a subservient role. As Apu is in a subservient role as a service provider, as the manager of the Quickie Mart. At the same time, throughout it all, he is also the only person who ever sees the world as it is. But of course, because he is obsequious in his nature, he will say, "You are being quite rude in the way that you're approaching me." Now, yes, this is a trope of the Indian or Middle Eastern shopkeep owner, and not for nothing, to give you a sense of white privilege, you could say he's Middle Eastern, you could say he's Indian. Most people aren't even going to know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not Apu was even in his original incarnation Indian, Pakistani, or Middle Eastern, no one could even say. In the same way that Smithers was African American in his first introduction. Yeah.
All right. Well, two questions. One, aren't most, or if not all, every character? I haven't watched Simpsons in a while. Aren't every Simpsons character like a stereotype? I mean,
but the thing is, here's the thing: when you say "aren't they a stereotype," there are ethnic stereotypes within Springfield. But what makes Springfield deeper is that nobody is just an ethnic stereotype, especially a character like Apu. Apu is not an ethnic stereotype. Here's what I'm going to say. If Apu were played by the guy who played Bashir's father and what's his name's father on Big Bang Theory, it's the same actor. He's a great actor.
Okay, yeah.
And he was Babu on Seinfeld because he can do an ethnic, he can do a greenhorn character. He's happy to be a greenhorn character. The greenhorn character is a common trope in American comedy. That's the recent immigrant.
Okay. Let me redefine this. Like I said, I haven't watched Simpsons in a while. Is Apu a stereotype? Though, yes. I mean, besides the accent, do they show him or have him doing stuff that's like a stereo?
No, there is nothing offensive. And here's the thing: when you're understanding, because this is all based on this film that a comedian who was on the Daily Show, I'm forgetting his name, made it called "The Problem with Apu." Good film, you should watch it. It's enjoyable. And he's trying to make this point, and to give you an example, he's making this point. Other people are coming at him with the argument you're making, which is missing the point. The point is not that Apu in and of himself is bad. It's that Apu is the most prominent Indian American character on television. Now, in truth, there's a very strong argument to be made that no, he's not.
I think he might. He might be more well known just because he's been around.
Exactly.
Season 28.
There are a lot of Indian American and Pakistani American because India and Pakistan are kind of the same place, but it's like Michigan and Ohio. Mm-hmm. We hate each other with an unbridled vengeance. If you don't live in Michigan, Ohio, and you say, "Why do you two hate each other?" Like, you're just being racist. Because, Michiganders, we are a different group entirely, possibly even a different species from Ohioans, who are, by their nature, a sad, slovenly lot of monstrosities.
Yeah.
Grown from the earth like onions.
Yeah, Pennsylvania and Ohio have their sports and other...
I'm sure you do, yes. We can all hate on Ohio.
Yeah.
Centrally located. Indianians hate Ohioans, too. And probably Illinoisers do too, but Illinois was Chicago. They're like, oh no, we have rivals in New York City and Los Angeles.
Ohio, central hub of hate.
Well, that's where they exist. But you know what? And here's the thing: I can't hate Ohio because Jamie Farr's from there, and Max Klinger is such a lovable character.
Yeah.
And and Drew Carey, see, lovable losers. That's what Ohio gives us, and just the most lovable losers in Jamie Farr and Drew Carey. We weren't even supposed to talk about this tonight, folks.
I know, but you mentioned Simpsons.
But you know what?
I mean, has the show just? Is it the problem? Is it's been around so long? It's what, season 28? It's like this show. All right, to put it in perspective, when this show started, I think Bart Simpson and I were around the same age. I just turned 40, so that should tell you something.
Well, exactly.
It's just the shows start in a less enlightened time, and it's like just because it's been around
Here's
so
the
long.
thing. Yeah, basically the problem with Apu was a problem that needed to be addressed 20 years ago.
Or more.
But unfortunately, no one cared 20 years ago because it was just one more voice actor being asked to do one more character. And that character took off.
And the show is so, like, once again, the show is so old. We really didn't have an internet before then. Like, how, by the time you got like 5-10 years into the show, nobody, you knew a name, but a lot of people probably didn't know who was behind some of these characters.
So, and to some of the extent of it is Hank Azaria, who, quite frankly, is an ethnically ambiguous gentleman to start with. I don't know Hank Azaria's actual official origin, although I bet you if you did one of those, Hank Azaria, here's my advice to you. Go do one of those 23andMe things and find out how many other ethnicities are in you. Because technically, I'm Native American. I'm not Gypsy. I'm Romany. He honestly strikes me as very Romany. I'm just going to say that. Put it out there. I will wager that his family has ties all across the Mediterranean and possibly reaching over to India, where, of course, as most people will tell you, the Indian migration into Europe feeds much of human culture. This is why I've always said, the biggest thing that people don't understand about actual German culture is that Germany was a crossroads and so was a melting pot culture, even though the Nazis came up with this idea of German purity, which is a joke in and of itself for a country that didn't even exist up until the late 1800s. It was a bunch of principalities, but that melting pot culture of principalities is what fed it, and which is why certain parts of Germany have certain genetic markers that are actually Mongolian.
Would you like to know the ethnicity of Hank Azaria's parents and grandparents?
I'm guessing Italian, but tell me what they are.
Azaria was born in Queens, New York, the son of Eastern Sephardic Jewish parents.
Mm-hmm.
His grandparents on both sides hailed from Thessalonica, from Greece's Spanish Jewish community established there after the 1492 exile.
So for what it's worth, he's a freaking living crossroads of humanity. Because Sephardic Jews. So who the Sephardic Jews are, to give you an understanding of the Sephardic Jewish tradition, they are Jews from the Middle East who came to Europe, settled in Spain, and oh man, don't even get started with the Sephardics versus the Ashkenazis. It's a whole thing. You don't want to know. But yeah, so no, exactly. He's Sephardic Jewish, which means he's from a minority group in and of himself. And he's made a living playing a lot of different kind of characters. And one of his things is he does voice work. He was married to Helen Hunt for a little while there, right? They met on Mad About You. I don't know if they're still married. But yeah, he was the dog walker, and he plays a lot of quasi-ethnic dumb guys. That is his actual career. Now,
what about
what he played in Apu was actually a fully ethnic smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
But as always happens, once something becomes popular, people notice that it's not being played by the fully ethnic smart guy that is running the show. It's supposed to be. They say, well, that's just Indian face.
So is our culture evolved? Has our culture evolved to this point, or is it fair to say, hey, well, you didn't mention this for the last 28 years. Why now?
Well, why now is because it basically, as we say, it's a sandwich spread. It's a floor wax. Stop, you're both right. It is that it was always offensive theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
As it has become a cultural touchstone, it has become more offensive because, yes, it is a cultural touchstone, but that means we're all the more obligated to examine it as a cultural touchstone. And the truth is there's no easy answer, but I don't think the problem with Apu, I think it's called the problem with Apu expressly because there is not an easy answer. There is not an easy answer to the problem with Apu because it is a problem. It was, here's the obvious answer to Apu. You know, cast another actor, kill off the character, do whatever you're going to do. You know, that's not the easy answer. Both on the fact that, you know, poor Hank Azaria, he's just an actor who got a job.
Yeah. He's reading his lines. Yeah.
You know, not for nothing. There's a lot of Middle Eastern actors who have played Indians. There's a lot of Spanish actors who've played Indians. There's a lot of Indian actors who've played Spanish people.
Hey, I don't want to break the fourth wall for you people, but there's a woman. A woman does the voice of Bart Simpson. Okay.
Well, yeah, and thank God that there's work for women in this world in the playing of smart alecky preteens. What else? Just to nerd on you for a minute, Phil. Don't push the damn button. Don't push the button. Even though that is technically a Simpson reference.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there we go. I got to feed the man his lines here. Just to nerd out on you, the idea of women playing young men has been a trope in both voiceover work for decades, and is actually something that dates back to, again, well, actually, then it was young men playing women. So I stand corrected. That was in Shakespearean times. Thank you. And it's a Simpson reference, so it all circles. That's right. It all circles right back in our Superconnectivity. See, we've been doing that for years just to set up this one moment where it all makes sense. So yeah, the problem with Apu is that it's a problem because there is not an easy answer. You can't tell but the problem is that Hank Azaria, and like I said, the problem is they keep on going to Hank Azaria for a statement. Hank Azaria's statement is, in total, if he could make this statement, I am an actor, someone is paying me to read lines. I'm not going to stop reading lines because someone is paying me. If they made me do something really offensive with Apu, maybe I would. You know, maybe I would actually take a principled stand, but no one has ever had me have Apu do something stupid or awful or stereotypical. I've always played Apu as a morally upstanding guy for Springfield. I've always played Apu as an intelligent guy, and he has played this role as the sassy servant who speaks truth to power, who says, you people are idiots. You know, he's called out racism routinely on the show when he was a member of the volunteer fire department, and this was in the episode where this was in Homer the Heretic, which is, of course, one of the classic episodes. And when, you know, when Reverend Lovejoy, who's also in the volunteer fire department, says, and when you were in trouble, we all came to your aid, whether it be Christian, Jew, Krusty the Clown, who is the actual really awful stereotype of a character. He is like the worst Jewish stereotype in the world, is Krusty the Clown. Or miscellaneous, he says to Apu, and he says, Hindu, there are a billion of us, you know.
I don't think it's anything to do with race or anything. I think all these studios and stuff are just cheap, because how many voices does Hank Azaria do? Because he does quite a number on The Simpsons.
Well, yeah, Hank Azaria here's the thing. Hank Azaria is not a main voice in The Simpsons, which is the other reason why he's like, why are you picking on me? Yeah. Because he doesn't have a main character. He's not Homer, he's not Marge, he's not Bart, he's not Mr. Burns even. He's most of the business owners. He's Apu, isn't he? Mo the bartender. Yeah, he's Mo the bartender. He's Apu. Here's the thing of Hank Azaria. Hank Azaria was the workhorse of the Tracy Ullman Show. Yes. So, and here's the thing: you have to understand Apu within the context of the Tracy Ullman Show. Yes. Because this was basically Tracy Ullman cast a show. So Tracy Ullman, shame on you for not having a more ethnically diverse cast. This is all Tracy Ullman's fault. Because Tracy Ullman, who has gotten into her own trouble for playing ethnic stereotypes on her shows. Mm-hmm. if you all remember, there's actually a very whole cosmology here. Tracy Ullman created the Tracy Ullman Show. They had about 6 actors. Hank Azaria, Shearer, I forget his first name.
Harry.
Harry Shearer, Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, Tracy Ullman, and then now I'm going to look like a sexist, and all the women who play the women on the Tracy Ullman Show, and on The Simpsons. So he had like 5 actors who were in charge of doing all the voices, and of course Harry Shearer, who was like the lead, the male lead of the Tracy Ullman Show. He got to be Homer, and he gets to be all these main characters. And then they said, well, we need some extra characters. And Hank Azaria is there, who played Harry Shearer. Actually, he didn't play Harry Shearer's boyfriend in the Francesca sketches. Who played Harry Shearer's husband in the Hank? Oh, it's the tall, handsome guy. I forget his name. The tall, handsome guy sadly didn't get cast enough. I actually love the tall, handsome guy, but he's not in a lot of things. But every time I see him, I think, oh, it's Francesca's other dad. I love him. Harry Shearer sometimes bugs me. He's a little self-righteous, quite frankly. If Harry Shearer was playing Apu, it'd be a whole deal. But Hank Azaria, he's a workhorse. He's an actor who got cast in this thing. He's the Tim Conway of the Tracy Ullman Show, which, he's never made permanent. He's always sort of on the wings. And social voices on The Simpsons, and specifically he does the voices that are the gag voices, the joke voices. He does your Chief Wiggums, he does your sea captains, I believe. He does. I think Hank is there. Harry Shearer does Krusty the Clown only because Krusty the Clown was actually supposed to be Homer Simpson. Homer and Krusty were originally supposed to be the same person.
Oh.
That was Homer's secret double life, was he actually was Krusty the Clown. That was something that Matt Groening had come up with when he was designing the ideas and the characters, was that Bart hates Homer, but he loves Krusty, and it turns out Krusty is Superman. It's the Lois Lane Superman Clark Kent dynamic. Wow. That was the original concept. It eventually got pushed aside, but as you do over 20 years. Mm-hmm. But that was the original concept that Matt Groening had. So Harry Shearer got cast as Krusty, and then Hank Azaria got whatever table scraps were left. I mean, that is the story of Apu. It's a series of unfortunate events that lead to poor Hank Azaria being pilloried over this thing. But for what it's worth, from the writers and producers' perspective, they should be looking at a way to solve the problem of Apu. Mm-hmm. Whether it is, do you think bringing in more Indian characters into the story? Apu has a brother that could be cast as an Indian American actor. He has a wife who I think is cast as an Indian American actor, and you could start bringing these non-Indian characters more into the forefront. Hank Azaria has other roles he can play. He's always Mo the bartender, and Mo the bartender is a central character, even though Mo the bartender is technically a Yeti, and probably Yeti Americans are offended that Hank Azaria is playing a Yeti. This was in an episode where it gets complex, basically. Basically, all later Simpsons, the canon is just out the window. But basically, they suggested that Mo was actually a Yeti, which technically means he's Mongolian, which means that's a whole other thing.
All right, let's move on. We've
done this. Why did you bring me? I didn't even.
I don't know. I'm always fooling myself.
Talk about these things.
I'm always fooling.
There's like, Charlie off. I'll throw a random monkey wrench in. That's not going to distract Charlie too much. But obviously, Charlie's been thinking about this for as long as it's been an issue, and has a lot to say. So there's very little that I don't have a lot to say about, especially if it's controversial.
No kidding. All right, how about this?
45 minutes. This whole episode we've been talking about Apu.
We talked Stanley. No, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season finale. The end. Is this the end?
I hope not. I mean, here's the thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The end. Phil Coulson is off to the 90s to work with Nick Fury again in ushering in Brie Larson to be our Captain Marvel in a green uniform. Fanboys are aghast at green, but they never considered that maybe she's the villain. Never thought that the woman working for Air Force intelligence during the point when Hydra had fully infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. might be a little bit villainous. Yeah. But now, here we are. Here's what I'm going to tell you. My own thinking is that this might be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s last season on ABC.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think they're going to move it to like the streaming service when they get that going?
I think they're going to move it to Hulu.
Oh.
I think it'll be a Hulu exclusive.
Well, some kind of streaming, yeah.
It's going to have an immediate tie into season 2 of The Runaways. And that's how they're going to build their Hulu universe, since they didn't buy Netflix, but they are buying Hulu. So you have this situation where Disney's going to wind up by chance because Fox needed money. And this is what I'll say. Rupert Murdoch is kicking himself for selling off Facebook now. Because he sold MySpace. People forget this. Rupert Murdoch bought MySpace at MySpace peak and paid like $1 billion for MySpace. Tom is doing great. Don't worry about Tom. Tom is fine. Tom sold MySpace to Rupert Murdoch for $1 billion. And then Facebook came along and said, we're going to do it better. I'm Mark Zuckerberg. What? And MySpace fell off the planet. Not the least of which probably because, hey, Rupert Murdoch bought MySpace. Why do we want to be on MySpace anymore? When it stopped being Tom and started being Rupert Murdoch, maybe it wasn't as cool to be on MySpace anymore. See, this is the thing. You have to remember marketing. And when you make yourself a brand, Rupert Murdoch, just like Mr. Trump, when you become a brand, you wind up hurting your own brand if your brand becomes too opinionated. That's why Disney is just about princesses and superheroes, man. We got nothing to say. We're just princesses and superheroes.
If you have any kind of business, shut your mouth. No one should know your opinion.
No one, exactly. Not only does no one want your opinion as a business owner, you don't want to give us your opinion. You want to be a professional.
No matter what opinion you have, no matter how benign it might seem, you're probably going to alienate a portion of your audience. Shut your mouth.
Exactly. Here's what I'll tell you. If you own a pizzeria and someone comes in and says, I want a pineapple, pepperoni, and anchovy pizza.
Don't say yuck.
You say, coming right up, sir.
Exactly.
We have pineapples, we have anchovies, and we have pepperonis.
Whatever you want.
You're the only one eating it. Not our problem. You want to eat your pizza with a knife and fork like they do in Napoli? Fine by us.
Exactly.
Not my place to have an opinion. I remember, what's his name? Guy who used to host the Daily Show.
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart. He's trying to talk to this pizzeria owner saying, hey, what would you do if you saw someone eating with a knife and fork? He'd be like, well, actually, we eat it with a knife and fork in Italy. That's actually traditional. Mm-hmm. But, New Yorkers, they don't eat it with a knife and fork. They just hold up a piece of bread and then jam it in their mouth, which is fine. That's how I eat pizza. But the fact of the matter is that if you start judging people because how they're going to eat the pizza, you're going to lose a customer. You don't lose a customer. You say, enjoy your pizza, sir. You want to eat your pizza folded up and jammed in your mouth? Great. You want to cut it with a knife and fork? That's fine. What do I care? What do I care? You paid for the pizza. It's your pizza now. If you want to take the pizza home and have a private moment with your pizza, quite frankly, so long as you're at your home having that private moment with your pizza, it really isn't our business anymore. Whatever you do with those pineapples and anchovies, once you leave this store, quite frankly, it's no longer on us. And that is how you should be. But that's not how Rupert Murdoch is. And I think it's cost him in a more connected age. And I think that's why he had to wind up selling MySpace for like pennies on the dollars. MySpace still exists. It's still out there. You can go back to MySpace. I think Tom might even still be a face on it somewhere, Like I said, Tom did fine. 40 sold it. He made a lot of money. Good for Tom. He may be blowing it all on hookers and blow rather than curing cancer, but you know what? That's his job. He's not obligated to cure cancer just because he got $1 billion from Rupert Murdoch.
You want to save space on the internet? Go to MySpace. No one will bug you.
I have no idea what you just said. You just jingled out at me.
I said if you want to save space on the internet, go to MySpace. No one will bug you.
Well, no, MySpace, it's a real social platform. It existed. Honestly, I have no idea what it existed for at this point in my life because I'm now too old to remember how the internet works, but it did exist and I enjoyed it for a while. See, here was the difference between MySpace and Facebook. MySpace was all about creating an image of yourself. Mm-hmm. It was very inward looking, whereas Facebook is very outward looking.
Yes.
So I go on Facebook and my idiot nephew is posting stuff and it's coming through my board. I love my idiot nephew, but he is my nephew and he is an idiot. And, God bless America and God bless him. He's not an idiot, but he's
politically polar opposite of you.
You know what? It's not even that he's the opposite. It's that the depth of his thought is offensive to me. I'll be honest with you. You see, here's what I'll always say. It's like, if you're a deep-thinking conservative, I'm happy to have that conversation because I know, as the smartest man who is not Reed Richards, who'd ever live, I've probably thought about it a little bit deeper than you, or more to the point, I know the jujitsu of, I guess I'm wrong. That's the real trick to winning any argument. It's like, well, perhaps I'm wrong. The real trick to winning any argument is to be mush, to have no one be able to land that punch because you're just, okay. Oh, okay. But I'm still gonna push through on my point,
Yeah. Oh, hey, real quick before we end. Oh
God, we gotta end. We didn't even talk about freaking Mephisto.
We already talked Mephisto.
I had a whole other thing with Mephisto in the microverse, and
we have tomorrow. We have tomorrow morning. We can get Lilith in on this, like she'll care. But I mean, we can do it on Types of Lunatics. But no, my last thing, we're talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. maybe going to a streaming service. What if they do it on Netflix and throw them into that Defenders universe? Because as we've heard, Jessica Jones getting a season 3.
Jessica Jones is getting her season 3. I'm very excited about that because what do we get in season 3 of Jessica Jones?
Patsy, Hellcat.
Hellcat. So here's the thing. In season 1,
Patsy Walker, Hellcat, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ooh, that's fun. But no, here's what I'm gonna say. Season 1, we had it's Patsy, I really want to be your friend. I hope this good times never end. Season 2, we get, hey, I want you cry. Hey, I want you cry. What will the song for Hellcat be in season 3? Because we're gonna get Patsy Walker's song for season 3, and it's gonna be some kind of Hellcat theme. I've been working on
I wonder when they're going to start putting Jessica Jones season 3 together, because what if Patsy tries to make some kind of comeback, and what if she works with Allison Blair, the Dazzler?
Okay. We all want that. There's not a person alive who knows who Patsy Walker and the Dazzler are. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine? Oh. Could you just imagine this? Patsy Walker's doing her thing, comes across a young Allison Blair. Because, mutants are a new thing now in the Marvel universe. We've got these newfangled mutants now. And she's like, I can help you. And what if the next season of Jessica Jones is actually just Patsy and Allison? And Jessica's like, am I even in this episode?
Oh my God! What about a band like what's that cartoon Gem? Patsy Walker, Allison Blair. Who else is in a band?
Spider-Gwen's in a band. Okay, good for Spider-Gwen.
I'm pretty sure.
We can throw in Spider-Gwen. What the heck? That Spider's around, you know. Who says that Spider got stomped on? It's not Spider Babe, where they clearly show the Spider getting stomped on.
Well, she was. Well, it was. Well, Spider Gwen. I think wasn't she from an alternate reality where she got bit instead of Peter Parker?
Yeah. But
yeah.
You know, not for nothing.
Right,
You can. This is the Netflix universe. They can do anything they want. Still mad that we didn't get more of a payoff with either of the two ringmasters we've had. Because you had the ringmaster, you had a character called the Ringmaster in Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had actual Maynard in this last season of Jessica Jones. Neither one proved to be what they should have been. So, little disappointed in our B characters there, Netflix. You need to you got to do some reveals of these characters being your Peter Dinklage Mephistos. Okay, so final thought I wanted to throw in here. Okay, so imagine this. When we get to Avengers Infinity War, so here's what happens.
Oh boy.
You know, Pip says, "Oh, hey, you know, we can defeat Thanos. I have to merge it. We have to work together. We have to here. Let's use this Soul Stone I happen to have. I need you all to pledge yourself to the Soul Stone. Yada yada yada. They defeat Thanos, but then, of course, big reveal Mephisto, the only person who says, "I can't do this. I don't know what that is." You know, who has a criminal's thought that this is someone's trying to scam me here is, of course, Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says, "Fair enough, because like I want your soul, Ant-Man," they defeat him, but then Mephisto does his reveal, pulls them all into his own hell. And in that moment, Ant-Man sees it, says, "I know where they went. I know where they went." And then he talks to Hank and he says, "I couldn't remember it until I saw it. That's the quantum realm. I know how we can get to the quantum realm. I know how we can save Janet Van Dyne. I know how we can save the Avengers." And Ant-Man and Wasp. And of course, Ant-Man and of course Hawkeye, who wants to get that freaking Goliath serum, who comes together so that we have in our Ant-Man Wasp bridging film of Ant-Man Wasp and Hawkeye, or Ant-Man Wasp and Goliath, bridging our story to Avengers Inferno, because Ant-Man's going to see the realm, the path to the quantum realm through Mephisto's evil. And that's how they save the Avengers to start Avengers Inferno.
I don't. Now that we're saying this, I don't know if it's going to be Avengers Inferno. What if Mephisto or Dinklage takes the souls of some of the people? Well, maybe some of the Avengers, but some of the people closest to some of these characters, like say Peter Parker's Aunt May. So what if it's Avengers 4 One More Day?
Oh, possibly. But well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what I'm going to say. Did you read Avengers vs. Mephisto?
No, I don't believe so. No.
It was okay. So there was 4. It was actually a Mephisto book, but it was I think it was like a 4 or 6 series.
Yeah, because each issue was like a different team.
Yeah, it starts out with Mephisto versus Fantastic Four, then Mephisto versus X Factor, then Mephisto versus the X-Men. I think it summarizes with Mephisto versus the the Avengers.
I read the X Factor and X-Men issues. I couldn't find the Avengers issues. The issue.
Yeah. That was actually the one I missed too, but I read. But it was like Of course, he said an unknown quantity that can only mean one thing: an X factor. So he called an X factor, then gets the X factor, and then goes after the X-Men, gets Rogue to steal everyone's soul first, and then he steals Rogue's soul, which gives them all of it. It's a brilliant thing. I missed the 4th book too. But the idea is that Mephisto wants special souls. And of course, possibly then what you have at the end of it is he goes after the most precious souls of all. What are the most precious souls in the universe, Phil?
Children?
No, the elders of the universe.
Oh, okay.
The last souls of their kind. And that would be how he gathers them up at the end of Avengers Infinity War, because the most elder of the elders of the universe in his final statement says, "We have lived forever with our obsessions. Let us give ourselves and save this universe that we have lived in for so long." And who is the oldest of all of the elders of the universe? The one elder that'll be unique to the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Who is that elder, Phil?
Who?
The storyteller, Stan Lee.
Oh.
And Stan Lee gets this big moment to be the hero with his brothers. It says, "We have lived forever.
Nice.
And now perhaps our story must end. And we will give our souls freely to this demon to free the heroes who will protect this universe for centuries to come." And there you go, kids. Now you don't have to pay that $8 to see these next 3 movies. So sorry for the spoilers. Hope you enjoy it.
And so our story must end.
So our story must end too. Every story ends, although, hey, the story starts again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. here on YouTube and later on your pod-catching services.
Don't be Charlie S. or listen to our podcast.
Yeah, I'm in the podcast. I can't listen to them too. It's like I only have so much time.
I am so much talent. I know.
Okay. Anyway, Philip, if people would like to reach out to you, talk to you about our amazing fan theories, my amazing mustache, or your quantum qualities that make you the perfect Quasar for the upcoming Quasar Across the Fifth Dimension film, how can they find you?
If you want to get a hold of me, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And remember, follow Superconnectivity on Facebook, facebook.com/Superconnectivity Podcast, at SuperConnectPod on Twitter, and the voicemail for all Capes and Lunatics, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES.
That's the one, of course. You can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way Peter Dinklage once did as a young man, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. He didn't write to me, but I'm sure he used email.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Peter Dinklage, we're about the same age, I think. You know. He might be younger. He might be like your age, Phil. He might be a young man, footloose and fancy-free. Not me. I'm old and like Stan Lee, about to die. But, you know, if you'd like to write to me before I die in that old-fashioned email, write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And if you just want the wisdom of Charlie Esser outside of a podcast, you can follow me on the Twitters. I tweet things from time to time at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssess. Like for the 2 E's in the middle. And that's for the quality. Thank you for connecting with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please super connect with us again. Good night.
Good night.
Made me talk that long about Apu, Phil.
Enough said.